It's not the events in our life that shape us, it's the meaning that we put on those events. So we can't change things that have happened in the past. However, we do have the power to change the story or the belief or the truth that we put on it.
Welcome to the Goodbye Good Girl Club, the podcast. I'm your host, Kasey Edwards, author of Goodbye Good Girl, Hello Me. If you've spent your life seeking approval from everyone except yourself, putting others' needs before your own, and staying silent to keep the peace, this podcast is for you. Whether you're 35 or 65, the question remains, when will you finally be enough? The answer is now. You belong here. Let's begin. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Goodbye Good Girl Club. I am Kasey Edwards, and I am so excited to have all of you here. And I am coming to you from Melbourne, Australia, where I am very fortunate to live on the beautiful lands of the Bunurong and Wurundjeri peoples of the Kulin Nation. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of these lands and pay my respects to elders past and present, and to any First Nations people who are joining us tonight. So I would like to thank all of you for giving yourself, giving each other, and giving Caroline and me this 1 hour to fill our buckets and to share space with other smart, supportive, and inspiring women, and perhaps challenge some of our beliefs as well. As I say every time, joining this club isn't just an act of self-love, it is actually an act of rebellion, because women in our society are so rarely encouraged to do something wholly for ourselves. Also, the workbook, you're going to want that tonight because Caroline is going to step us through the process of actually changing beliefs. So month after month, we're talking about challenging our good girl beliefs. This is the how, and she has helped me enormously over the years, changing my beliefs, and Caroline is going to show us how to do that. And the process, the cutting the string of pearls process, is in the workbook. Caroline is a master certified award-winning executive coach, facilitator, and author who shares powerful yet simple ways to go from surviving to thriving. So she has had 10 different careers in frontline to executive roles across corporate, government, and nonprofit sectors. So she is experienced in most of the traps that good girls inadvertently fall into. She has juggled life in the corporate fast lane with single parenthood, a hefty mortgage, and constant stress. And she became increasingly tired of the endless struggle. So when it finally became intolerable, she knew she had to change, and she set off on a quest to discover how to make that change easy. So she cracked the code. And for the last 25 years, through her company, Possibility to Reality, and there is a link to that in the back of your workbook, she's been on a mission to help people achieve success and happiness without the struggle. Caroline, welcome. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us tonight.
My absolute pleasure. Look, the technology is so wonderful. I haven't even managed to blur my background, so please just bear with me.
We're keeping it real. So let's get started. And once again, if you haven't downloaded your workbook, you're going to want it because it's going to be really useful as we step through the process. So, Caroline, in my book, I write in Goodbye Good Girl, I write about how you introduced me to the process of cutting the string of pearls, which is the process of changing beliefs that no longer help us and serve us. So can you just quickly describe what it is? What is this string of pearls technique?
Sure. Okay. So the context behind this is one of my favourite beliefs, which is it's not the events in our life that shape us, it's the meaning that we put on those events. So we can't change things that have happened in the past. However, we do have the power to change the story or the belief or the truth that we put on it. It's not the events in our life that shape us. Works with the idea that none of our beliefs work on those events. They don't live. So we can't change things that have happened in the past. They're all connected. However, we do have the power to change the story or the belief or the truth that we put on it. Then what happens is that every time you have a similar event in your life, it becomes a bit like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it just adds another pearl to the string. So each time you have an experience, you put a truth or meaning on it. And then when there's a similar one, you go, oh, yes, that's because I'm not good enough, or I'm not, whatever I'm not enough of, right? So it's kind of like one pearl adds on to another pearl. Now, you'll see that some pearls are bigger than others, and those are the big events. But they've probably started way back in childhood. See the little pearl right back at the beginning? Mm-hmm. And what happens is that we stack them on until we've got all these unhelpful beliefs that are reinforcing the others. Now, the thing here is that if I got a pair of scissors and I cut the very first pearl off, I won't, because these were my mother's pearls, but you get the drift. What would happen to all the other pearls if I cut the string? They would just fall away. Now, in isolation, they're nowhere near as powerful as when they're all stacked on top of each other. So the goal to this particular technique is that we actually just need to change the meaning that we put on the events that happen to us. And once we do that, those negative beliefs or unhelpful beliefs are no longer helpful. They just are no longer powerful in our lives.
Okay, so let's jump right in with the process. And so what I'm thinking tonight, everybody, is if you would like to follow along in your workbook and add and workshop your own beliefs and your own pearl necklaces, please do so. I'm going to, with Caroline, workshop one of mine. So a belief that Caroline has helped me with in the past, so we know that it has a happy ending. We'll step through that process. So on page 3 of your workbook, Caroline and I have listed some of the typical pearl necklaces and beliefs that good girls have. So if you're struggling to think of one of your good girl beliefs, you might get a clue from page 3. But let's flip over to page 4, and Caroline, take it away. The process.
All right. So it's actually fairly straightforward, and it's a step-by-step process. So the first thing is to identify a limiting belief. Now, what's a limiting belief? It's something that's not serving you, supporting you, nurturing you, or challenging you in a good way. So do you have one of those? Or have you?
I do, yes.
Yeah. Okay, which one do we want to work with, Kasey?
So normally my go-to is body image, but I have talked a lot about body image in this club. So I'm going to pick something else that a lot of women struggle with. And it's been a really big pearl necklace for me. And it is the belief that I can only believe myself and trust myself if other people believe me first.
Okay. So you can only believe in yourself and trust yourself if other people have done it before you do. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So what I want you to do, close your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to float up to 20,000 feet above the room that you're in right now. And it's like zooming up in a rocket ship. And once you're there, I want you to start traveling back across your life. So imagine way down below you there's a river. And that river represents your life. And I want you to float right the way back in your imagination to the time when you very first believed or first realised that you couldn't believe and trust in yourself unless someone else did it first.
Mm-hmm.
Now, float right back and tell me when you've got it.
I have it.
You've got it?
I have it. And it is one of...
Tell me when it was. How old
so I just want to say it's one of the big pearls.
Yeah.
And so I just want to give a trigger warning to everyone. I'm going to talk about sexual abuse.
Right.
And the reason I'm going to do that is because it's true. It is one of my big pearls. But also, just as an aside, 1 in 3 of us tonight have a similar story, and I'm just really sick of the shame and the silence. So that's why I'm going to talk about that, Pearl, tonight.
Right.
And so what that event was, Caroline, was when I was 8 years old, and I came to my mother and I told her what was happening to me, and she didn't believe me. And I got in trouble for lying, and I got in trouble for being attention seeking.
Okay. So when you got in trouble, what was the meaning you put on that whole event? What was the story you told yourself?
That it mustn't have been true.
Okay.
Because mothers don't lie.
Because mothers don't lie.
Yeah.
Right.
So I must have been making it up, and I must be bad.
Okay. So what I want you to do now is think of what you would tell 8-year-old Kasey, what you know now, so many years later, with all your life experience that little Kasey could not possibly have known back then. What insight that you can see from 20,000 feet above, what insight can you give 8-year-old Kasey that would change that belief that she was lying?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think I'd play her a song. I'd play her Taylor Swift song, The Man, and that one line in it, when everyone believes you, what's that like? And so I actually tear up every time I hear that, because that was her story of being sexually assaulted in public, and people still didn't believe her, and she was Taylor Swift, right? So, and I would tell little Kasey that as a society, we have this agreement that we'd much prefer to call a little girl a liar than we would to confront what some men do. And that it wasn't about me. It wasn't even about my mum. It was just, that's what we as a society do. And like, when you look at the numbers, it has to be that. Like, when 1 in 3 of us have this story, but we don't know any predators. Like,
so tell me what you would tell little Kasey to change that story that she must be lying, a belief that has not served, supported, nurtured, and challenged her in a good way. What could you tell her to shift that belief? What's a new truth that you could put on that event?
that truth comes from inside me, not outside me. And that I know what's true. I don't need to see it reflected back in a mirror, because I remember, and my body remembers, and yeah.
So truth comes from within me, and I know what's true. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. What else could you offer her?
Oh, a hug.
Yeah. It wasn't her fault.
And I think at 8, little Kasey didn't know that the worst part hadn't happened yet.
Right.
Because the worst part was not being believed.
Right. So as you apply that truth now, that the truth lies within you and you know what was true, regardless of what your mum and other people were saying, as you float back towards where we are now, to all the other events that happen, so you've got bigger and bigger pearls and then smaller pearls that all had you doubting yourself, as you drop down into those events and you apply that truth that you now have, perhaps we can cut your string of pearls and let all those stacked on beliefs of, I must be telling a lie and other people don't believe me, and perhaps we can drop those away and apply that truth. What would happen if you believed yourself and other people's truths didn't matter?
Well, I am there now, because we've already been through this process, Caroline. You've helped me. And just to give two examples was when I didn't believe myself, when I was, for example, two medical examples, when I was in labour and the nurse said, "You're not in labour," and sent Chris home. And I was thinking, oh my God, if I can't cope with not being in labour, how am I going to cope with labour?
Yeah.
I didn't say, no, I am in labour. I know I am. I didn't say that. I believed her that I wasn't. And that
because your pearls were all stacked on.
That's right.
And we're often unconsciously aware of the fact that we go looking for validation, even of the things that aren't helpful. And in that moment, if in labour Kasey had known that I know myself and I know what's true, now you know that.
Yes. And I would have advocated for myself, just like recently. Well, I went to doctors regularly for all my perimenopause symptoms, and they told me that it was just stress and anxiety, and have I thought of losing weight? Well, the Kasey now went, I'm going to a different doctor. And I kept going until I found a doctor who believed me, because I knew.
Yeah.
I knew that my body was right. So that's what is the difference after I cut that string of pearls.
Yeah. So what you're doing is replacing an old unhelpful belief right back at the origin story, which for you was at age 8, with something that is far more empowering and true for you, that is serving, supporting, nurturing and challenging you, as it has done, looking for a doctor who would understand your perimenopause. Yeah. Yeah. It's powerful.
It is life-changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it comes back to, for those listening, that we can't change all those events that have happened to us and all the things Kasey's been through. However, she can change the meaning she puts on it, because she's now so much wiser and has a lot more insight. And you can do that too, if you choose to.
Yeah. And so something that you talk about in this process that I got wrong for a while was the idea that our beliefs are like an elastic band, and the importance of replacing an old belief with a new one. Can you just clarify that?
Okay, so what happens with change is that, particularly with entrenched beliefs that we've held for years, that we're really vested in, it's not enough to say, oh, I know that's not true now. If we don't replace it with something else, it's just like an elastic band. You stretch it out with a new insight, but if you don't actually apply that new insight and truly believe it, it'll slap back to what it was. The old belief will just dig its horns in because you carried it for so long. Yeah.
And so how do we make our new beliefs stick?
How do we make our new beliefs stick? Well, the first thing is to acknowledge when a belief needs to be changed. So you might be feeling shame or fear or rejection or anger and frustration. They're often signs, warning signs that something needs to be changed. Now, to actually change the belief, if you can go back and to that moment, even if it was just yesterday, and say, how else could I look at that? What would be another thing that could be true about that? Then it's really about finding a truth that does serve, support, nurture, and challenge you in a good way, and then finding ways to reinforce your new belief. So you're creating new neural pathways in your brain, and you're looking for ways to actually reinforce and entrench that belief, because the string of pearls also works for empowering beliefs. So if you fix your string and add on pearls that are reinforcing your new belief that is helpful, there isn't space for the old beliefs anymore. And once you recognize the power of reframing those old beliefs, it can actually be really liberating. And you want those new helpful beliefs to stack on, stack on, stack on, stack on. So you're doing it consciously and intentionally versus all the old stuff that probably happened subconsciously. You didn't even know that you were saying, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. Oh, I'm my mother knows better. All those old things, once you've cut them away, you then stack on new empowering beliefs.
I can see that because I'm never going to sit in a doctor's office and have them tell me that I'm imagining things ever again. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It does work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's also for some of my harder beliefs. I mean, that was a hard one, but body image for me is my most challenging belief. It is almost like a daily practice of deciding, of choosing my new belief.
Yeah. Exactly.
The one
And being
and
very conscious and intentional about it until it starts to just feel like true to you. And even then, you have to be vigilant because the old belief, particularly in moments of self-doubt, can easily jump back in.
done.
So you have to be quite vigilant to start with. But the more intentional you are every single day, the easier it gets until that just becomes your new neural pathway in your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful process, Caroline. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I hope the people listening that you'll just give it a go because, why not?
Yeah. What have you got to lose?
Yeah,
An
why
old belief
not
that's not
try
serving you
thinking this
anymore.
way? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, time is ticking by, and I have a whole list of questions for you. So I'm going to jump now to authenticity.
Right.
And this is something that you have challenged in the way I think about authenticity. Because I have talked about, even during this club, that being authentic takes courage and bravery, and it's really hard for good girls to do. And you really surprised me the other day when you said it's not hard at all.
Uh-huh.
Tell us about that. Before we continue, I want to tell you about something that might help you on your own journey. If today's conversation is resonating with you, you might want to check out my book, Goodbye Good Girl, Hello Me. It's my personal story of recognizing and challenging the beliefs that kept me seeking everyone else's approval instead of trusting myself. Think of it as a roadmap to the person you were always meant to be. And if you're a parent, grandparent, carer, or teacher who wants to protect your children from inheriting these damaging beliefs, I've also written Raising Girls Who Like Themselves and Bringing Up Boys Who Like Themselves, both bestsellers that show you how to raise kids who value themselves from the inside out. You can find all these books at KaseyEdwards.com. And if you use the code podcast at checkout, you'll get $10 off your order. Absolutely everything we hope and dream for ourselves and for our children in our lives become easier when we like ourselves. Now, back to our conversation.
So here's the thing with authenticity, and this might be a bit controversial, but I think we have a tendency to overthink it and overbake it, and we make it way harder than it needs to be. So here's the thing. If you're clear about your values and your standards and your priorities, what's good for you, what's good for others around you, and what's good for the whole world, then it's way easier to be authentic than to be someone you're not. Like, being fake is actually hard work. And you just need those, it's almost like a compass, if you like. So your values and principles, what you stand for, and you've got that whole notion of what's good for you, good for others, and good for the world around you. So it's not a self-centered thing. It's what we call ecological. If you understand all that and you're clear on that, it's actually easier to be authentic than to be fake.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So how does this work in practice?
How does this work in practice, or how do you know you're being authentic every day?
Yeah.
I think it comes back to what we're talking about here, about consciously choosing how you want to show up every single day, in every conversation, every meeting, every email. It's choosing. Yeah.
You have a technique to help with this.
Yeah. So this particular technique was a real game changer for me. And I only learned it a few years ago. It was one of those things that I thought, God, I wish I'd known this way back when I was struggling with insert the challenge. It would have been way easier. And it works on this idea that most of us have this subconscious strategy for living. And it's based on, if I do X, then I'll have Y, and then I'll be Z. So if I work really, really hard, then I'll have a great job, promotions, good career, house, money, car, partner, whatever all the things are that I want to have, and then I'll be happy. So we all have this, it's subconscious, we just always do it. So we work harder, if that's the do.
Yeah.
Then I'll have all these great things, and then I'll be happy. Now, what I'm going to propose here is that you flip that almost like a coin, turn it over, and the alternative then, if you swap that, is starting with what do you want to have. So rather than do, have. What is my desired outcome here? What do I want to have? Then the most important step is, how do I need to be to achieve that particular outcome? How do I need to show up to achieve that outcome? And then what do I need to do generally takes care of itself. And I've found that when I am clear on what I want to have happen, I decide how I'm going to show up, how I want to be, there is way less preparation. So, for example, if you think about it, there's a conversation that you're having with, let's say it's a tense conversation with someone, or it's booked in. You might have to give someone some feedback at work, for example. We love a difficult conversation. So before that meeting, you just have to decide, what do I want to have happen? I want the other person to be able to hear what I've got to say. I want to be able to listen. I have to be able to listen. And ultimately what we want is a change in the particular behaviour that I'm going to give them the feedback about. So that's what I want to have happen. How do I need to be? So choosing this intentionally. I need to be clear. I need to be calm. I need to be curious. I want to understand more. And perhaps I need to be compassionate, because this might be hard for the person to hear. And then what do I need to do? I just need to show up and be fully present in that meeting. If you can practice that for every email you're going to send, every conversation you have, every meeting that you're in, whether it's with family, friends, at work, it becomes much easier to be authentic, because you're choosing how you want to be in any particular moment. And if things are going off track a little bit, you can always pivot. So sometimes I'll go, right, I need to be calm and clear and curious. If the meeting's getting too tense, I know I need to be perhaps a little bit humorous to break the tension. So I can flip some of those things, but ultimately I'm very clear on where it needs to go and what needs to happen. So I'm going to recommend everyone tries it. I think I sent you an infographic we can give everybody.
And I didn't put it in the workbook, but I will put it in the replay email. So I will include that infographic.
Yeah, it's a really cool little infographic that I had up in the top left-hand side of my monitor for years to remind me every meeting I was going in, every email that I was sending, what do I want to have? How do I need to be? And that includes when you're typing an email. Do I need to be angry? No. Choosing how you want to be, and there's the authenticity piece. And then, okay, what do I need to do? And the more often you do it, the more empowering it becomes, because you're taking control of the situation. You're taking control of you.
The be bit really speaks to me, like the idea of consciously choosing what you want to be.
Yeah.
Because so often, certainly for me, in my good girl phase in the corporate world, the be was whatever the person in front of me was expecting me to be.
This is a complete 90-degree shift, right? It's totally turning turning that on its head, just saying, how do I need to be to achieve the outcome that needs to happen here?
Yeah, and I think the traditional way of putting the have last makes me think of, and you probably do not even remember this because it was so long ago. I interviewed you for my very first book, 30 Something and Over It.
I remember it.
When you wake up and don't want to go to work ever again. And what I had found in my research was that people had these plans of what they were going to have years down the track, that they were delaying the things that they wanted because they were putting the work in now. And I remember you saying to me that if you wait to get all your ducks in a row, they'll just shit on you.
Did I say that? Yeah, I said that.
It's in writing. I've actually quoted you in the book.
Yeah.
And because they shit on you, and often you don't even get there. You don't get to the have because you're too busy doing all the work, right?
And we're working way harder than we need to. And I'm sure that's where a lot of, for many good girls, this is where a lot of the burnout comes from, is because we just think if I work harder, then I'll have all the stuff that I want and then I'll be happy. And actually, if you can flip it, it changes everything. It changes everything.
Yeah. Because when you wait for that payoff and then you just get resentful because it's not coming and people just expect you to keep working harder.
Yeah. And you do. You just keep on going. We've both been there. Yeah.
Okay, everyone, I'm going to send you that infographic, so keep an eye out.
Very cool. Just put a little one up on the top left-hand of your screen and just give it a go every day and you'll be amazed at just how empowering it is. It's liberating.
The choice that we get to make. Yeah. I have more questions, but we're running out of time, so I'm going to jump to the questions from the audience. The first question, hang on, that came through. Okay, the first one is, how do I even know who I am, really, if I've spent my whole life being who I thought I should be? Where do I start in finding my real self?
Such a good question.
Isn't it? Brilliant question.
We spend so much time in our heads with other people's projections of how we should be and what we should be doing. So I would say finding your real self starts, again, I'm going to come back to it, with becoming consciously aware of what matters most to you, right? Those core values, your purpose, what's the difference that you are here to make? We could do a whole other webinar on finding your purpose. Purpose is way bigger than you. And that gets you out of your own head about it. But knowing what your values are, your purpose and your priorities has you looking at it and going, right, well, what do I want to do with my one precious life? Thanks, Mary Oliver. It's about being very clear on what you're here to do. What's the difference you want to make and the impact that you want to have in whatever it is that matters most to you. And then it can be quite confronting, but even asking yourself, what do I want to be remembered for and as?
Mm-hmm.
All right? Go and write your own eulogy. That is a really confronting exercise, but wow, it makes it clear. Makes it very clear. So what is most important to you? And finding your real self is all about becoming consciously aware of those things. Purpose, values, what's your legacy, whatever it is, and that can be big or small. It doesn't matter. It's whatever is most important to you, and that's where it starts. There's a whole lot of processes beyond that, but once you become consciously aware of that, it becomes much easier to be yourself.
And then the beliefs that don't fit become clear.
Yep, we can cut that pearl necklace of old beliefs. You can just cut them and let them all just scatter on the floor. Replace them with things that do support you and serve you and nurture you.
I got a message from someone on social media today that made me so sad. She said, it's too late for me. That I'm hoping that it'll be better for our daughters, but it's too late for me. So what do you say to somebody, I think this woman was in her mid-50s, who feels like they've missed the boat in finding their real self, in changing the beliefs that don't serve them?
Obviously, I'm going to say it's never too late.
Yeah.
even if you're on your deathbed. It is never too late. Never too late. Again, going back to what we talked about at the beginning, Kasey, we can't change what's happened or gone before us.
Mm-hmm.
That's spilt milk. It's done. Start at where you are today, right now, and then look at what you need to be your real self moving forward. There's, apart from reframing old beliefs that aren't helping you, there's not a lot of point in, I guess, having regret and remorse and things about the past. If you can look at where am I right now, whether I have a week, a month, a year, 10, 20, 30 years left on this earth, how am I going to make my difference count?
Yeah.
And then it becomes less about you and more about what you're here to do.
I'm remembering now something that you told me a long time ago when I was going through my own career crisis and deciding that I no longer wanted to be a management consultant and hadn't yet decided that I wanted to be a writer. And you told me not to just throw out all the things and the experiences and the skills that had got me to this point.
Right.
Those are things that I could draw on.
And look at how you've drawn on them. Everything's useful, right? We don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And no matter what you've been through that's been a struggle or a hardship or even a trauma in your life, that's not your whole life. And that in and of itself is not your identity. So it's about just cherry picking all that rich experience that you've had and putting it to good use.
Yeah.
Which is what you've done.
Yes. Okay, another question here. We've probably got time for just one more because Caroline asked me to save time at the end so she could ask me some questions.
Oh, yeah. I'm asking you questions tonight.
This one's actually for me, so I'm going to answer this one.
Great.
You can chip in too, Caroline. This is when you were cutting your own pearl strings, did you ever feel grief for the version of you that believed those things? How do you let go of feeling like you've lost something? That is a really wonderful question. It's very deep. And the answer to that is yes, I did feel grief and I still feel grief. But what I'm grieving for is something that isn't real and was never real. Like, part of me moving on is I am no longer in contact with the people in my family who don't believe me. Like, I made that decision and I only invest in the relationships of people who do. And so sometimes I feel really sad about not having the parents that I could call up or would want to visit me. But the thing is, I never had them. What I'm missing is a fantasy. Mm-hmm. And so when I remind myself of I'm craving for something that I never actually had, then it helps with the grief because it's not grief, it's my imagination.
I think if I can add to that, and that is the perfect way of illustrating that it's not the events in our life that change us, it's the meaning we put on them, and that you can change your truth at any time, and that is within your control. I get the question about grief. I think there's something about honouring your past self. Mm-hmm. Your past self, and we're all perfectly imperfect, your past self has got you to at least where you are today. And in spite of what your unhelpful beliefs might say of don't know how, your past self has served you really well. And I think part of it is about acceptance and compassion and just love and appreciation for your past self. Like all of us, she did the best she could with what she had at the time.
Yeah, at that moment in
that
time.
Moment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Caroline.
Over to me?
floor over to you. What would you like to ask?
Okay, so I've got a couple of questions, and like many of you on the call tonight, I've listened to all the other 5 Goodbye Good Girl Club webinars, and they've all been great. I took copious notes because I'm a note taker, and I got so much out of all of them. And at the end of each one, it was like, I just want to pick up the phone to Kasey and say, what did you get out of that? What did you take away from that? So one of the things I want to ask you is, what's something new or surprising that you've learnt that you didn't know before we started the Goodbye Good Girl Club? What's something that surprised you?
So when I invited all those different women onto the Goodbye Good Girl Club, I admire all of them immensely, and they all look like they've got everything worked out, right? And so what I learned from all of them is they didn't start that way. And I think that...
You mean they weren't born like that?
No, that every single one of them, and you included, has actively chosen to reject the good girl conditioning.
Yeah.
And so I think that we look at these people who, have functional families and things like that, and you just think that that road is so easy for them, and they end up in this really authentic place where they're empowered and successful and joyful. And every person I've spoken to about the good girl beliefs has had to change their core beliefs, because that's, even if you've got the best family in the world, we're still marinating in this society that makes us insecure.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what I learned, that if you don't want to live the way you're living anymore, you have to actively choose to step onto a different path.
Yeah. Step outside that comfort zone of what's familiar. And I often liken that, the metaphor I often use for that is, it's like, when you get a new pair of Ugg boots, let's say, and for the first sort of year or so, they're great. They're comfy, they're warm, they're cozy. But you know what Ugg boots are like? They wear down, and you get to that point where you go to put the bin out at night and realise, on a rainy, wet night, and you realise there's a hole in the bottom of it. And you think, I should get some new ones, but these ones are so comfy. And so you keep on getting wet feet every time you go outside. And so we tend to hold on to what's familiar, even though it's past its use-by date, because sometimes staying with the familiar, like your comfy old pair of hole-in-the-sole Ugg boots, is just easier until it gets to the point that they're falling off your feet.
Yeah.
So my tip for everyone tonight is, don't wait until your Ugg boots have holes in the bottom of them. You don't have to wait until your feet are cold and wet. You can choose to do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have one more question for you.
Yes.
Can I do one more?
Yes, we have time for one more.
Great. So this is a slightly different way of asking the same question. If there was just one thing, and I know we've got one more bonus week for the Goodbye Good Girl Club, but if there was just one thing that you hope our Goodbye Good Girl Club community could take away and remember and apply for years to come, given that we've had so many great strategies and tips from all the guests, but if there was just one thing that you hope our community could take away and actively use, what would it be?
I think you are all watching it right now. And what it is the power of relationships with other women. Caroline, the role that you have played in my life over 20 years, 21 years is extraordinary. And I don't think I'd be where I am without the way that you have supported me and guided me and cared for me and validated me throughout all of that journey. And I think that part of rejecting the good girl beliefs is rejecting that idea that we have to compete with women, that we're only good enough if we're better than the woman next to us, but also the idea that friendship is something that we fit in the cracks of our lives once we've done all the other important things. Friendship is one of the most important things. And the research shows that, people who have good friendships have better mental health, physical health, live longer. And even though a lot of the things that we've been talking about are individual decisions that we all need to make, it's so much easier to make those decisions and to walk the path of authenticity when you have really good women around you.
Yeah. Ditto, here. All this stuff that we've been talking about for the last 6 weeks becomes much easier when you've got the right people around you supporting you, and, because it works both ways. I've gained so much since that very first day when you said, "Oh, will you be my mentor?" 27 years ago, or however long ago it was. Trust me, I have gained more from it than probably you. And that is the reciprocal nature of really good relationships, is that don't think you're imposing on someone or anything like that. It's reciprocal. It's beneficial to both of you. You can hold each other up. And I hope everyone on our call tonight has at least one person who's in their corners who can say, "You can do this. You've got this."
Yeah. And if you don't, the first place to start in finding that friendship and maintaining that friendship is prioritizing it.
Yeah.
Like for me, since I've done all my research on Goodbye Good Girl, Hello Me, friendship has gone from the bottom of the list to the top of the list.
Yeah.
It's, we don't negotiate on our kids' swimming lesson. We take them even when we're busy, right? Well, friendships like that for me.
Yeah, good.
When I'm catching up with my friends, I'm catching up with my friends, right? And that's how we maintain and establish those relationships. Just one other point I want to make is, in our culture, we have this idea that older women lose their value as they age. Mm-hmm. And I think that we really need to challenge that. There is so much wisdom to be found in women who are older than us, who have walked the path, lived the years, had the experience. And I think we really have to fight against that idea that we're losing our value as we age. We have
I actually think the value increases just because of the scars you have on your back. You look at now compared to 20 years ago, what you know now that you didn't know then. And I think that your value is exponential as you get older because of life's experiences. Yeah.
Yes. So this brings us to the end of our Goodbye Good Girl Club. Everyone, I hope you found it so useful, and I really do encourage you to give Caroline's strategies a go. They really have worked so well for me and for so many other women. You've helped so many people over your career, Caroline, so why not try it?
Nothing to lose.
That's right. And next we have a bonus club, which will bring us to the end of season 1. And that is with Amy Malloy, who is an expert in telling our stories. And so the idea is we have been unpacking what we think about ourselves, what we think about the world. And now we're at the point where we want to talk about it. My hope is to speak more authentically. And so she's going to talk about how do we tell our stories authentically, safely, and effectively. And so that might be writing a memoir. It might be a social media post. It might be a chat with a friend. But this is about, being effective as our new authentic selves. So, Caroline, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. My absolute pleasure, as always.
Thank you for joining the Goodbye Good Girl Club today. If this episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you could leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Your words help other women find this community, women who, just like you, deserve so much more than they've been settling for. And please share this podcast with the women in your life who need to hear these conversations. Send it to your sister, your mom, your best friend, your colleague, anyone who's been putting everyone else first for far too long. If you want a roadmap to saying goodbye to your own good girl, you can grab a copy of my book, Goodbye Good Girl, Hello Me, at KaseyEdwards.com. Use the code PODCAST for $10 off this book or my parenting books, Raising Girls Who Like Themselves and Bringing Up Boys Who Like Themselves. Until next time, you don't need to earn your worth. You just have to remember it. This is the Goodbye Good Girl Club. I'm Kasey Edwards. Thank you for being here.